Hello everybody, I'm Ryan from Fireside Yankees, and in today's episode we're going to preview the winter meetings, which is going to start next week, and it should be an eventful winter meetings for the Yankees. Obviously, Yoshinobu Yamamoto is set to meet with some teams. The Juan Soto sweepstakes are heating up, and we've seen reports about names being exchanged, and this is the time of year where you see big deals get done. I know the Yankees aren't involved in this as well, but Shohei Ohtani is expected to sign at some point during the winter meetings, so a lot of dominoes are going to fall in that time, in that period of time. But the Yankees actually went out and did get a 25-year-old Dominican-born outfielder, as we've all asked for. They claimed Oscar Gonzalez off of waivers. If the name isn't familiar, it should be, because if you watch the 2022 ALDS, you definitely remember the Game 3 crushing loss. While the Yankees did win the series, so it did soften the blow of that loss, it was actually delivered by Oscar Gonzalez, who hit a slider down and away up the middle. He had a really good 2022 season, but 2023 was a different story. He fell off a cliff, man. He was terrible. 48 WRC plus, negative 1.5 WAR, 25.6% strikeout rate to a 2.8% walk rate. Didn't hit for power, 312 slugging percentage, and sub 100 isolated power. This is a guy who's going to need to, do a lot of soul searching, and maybe a fresh start is good for him. He's only 25 years old. He is actually decently fast. He's in the 68th percentile in sprint speeds, and he does have some good raw power. So, with this move, I don't think it's going to preclude anything, but Aiden, what did you think about the waiver claim, and how are you doing today, my man?
Doing all right. Glad it's Friday. Still cold as hell out, but, I saw this move, didn't really make too much of it. I mean, it's just, kind of one of those random waiver ads that Cashman in the front office make. There's nothing really to, read too much off of it or get up in arms about, because, this is a depth ad. It's, for when someone inevitably in the outfield gets hurt next year. He probably gets, time in spring training, trying to battle for a spot, but honestly, just looking at his numbers from last year, looks like he battles it out in spring training and is either released or, he's going to spend time in AAA and then just be that guy that's ready when someone gets hurt. But, it's a low risk move for all intents and purposes. I mean, the guy is basically 2 years removed or 1 year removed from a 125 WRC plus season. The guy isn't, we've seen he can do it at the big league level. He had a bad year last year, but, hopefully the Yankees see something in him that they can tap into. His exit velocity is there. We know he has power. But yeah, it feels a little bit like the Franchi Cordero pickup, but, I think, obviously there's some differences there. But yeah, other than that, not too much to take away from it. Just kind of waiting on the other 25-year-old Dominican outfielder. So yeah, that's all I got on that.
Yeah, and, speaking of Juan Soto, Andy Martino reported that the two sides, the Yankees and the Padres, have exchanged names. That's not the only buzz we've seen. Jesse Rogers of ESPN mentioned that he doesn't feel like the Cubs are in on Juan Soto. Jeff Passan dropped an article today that said the Yankees are an obvious fit for Soto, and kind of rattled off some teams that could be interested, but each team that, that wasn't the Yankees kind of came with its own, little asterisk there, right? Like the Giants, it's, yes, they're motivated and they would be motivated to get a deal done even with a division rival, but are the Padres going to be motivated to do that, right? For the Mets and Red Sox, who are also two teams who are location-wise where Juan Soto would want to be, and certainly have, the money to do so, they don't want to trade prospects for a guy who's only a rental, right? The Mets and Red Sox are not in that market. So, they have not engaged in talks with the Padres for Juan Soto. The Cubs were that big threat in my eyes. And obviously I just mentioned the thing with Jesse Rogers. The Seattle Mariners are another team that would just make a ton of sense. And in terms of trade history, the Padres and the Mariners probably have the richest trade history of the teams you would assume would benefit for the most from having Juan Soto. But Jeff Passan said them as a team who has the need or has the desire or has the fit, but might abstain from bidding. So, kind of looking at the landscape of the Juan Soto situation, obviously he's a perfect fit for the Yankees. I mean, who doesn't he fit in Major League Baseball, right? Obviously we would get a lot better having him, but it looks like the Padres are going to be trading a generational talent, and they're not going to have a lot of suitors for that. And it's not shocking either. Number one, he's due about $33 million in arbitration. That knocks out teams like the Rays or the Orioles or Cleveland, right? Like those type of teams that could use Juan Soto, but are certainly not going to part ways with the prospect capital because they can't afford that type of payroll hit. And then the 1 year left, and, let's be real here. How many teams can make an extension offer that's going to make Juan Soto even think about taking in that and not hitting free agency? So there are a lot of teams who don't want to trade that prospect capital for 1 year of a player. The Yankees are in a different situation. Now, Bob Clappish and Andy Martino also mentioned that, probably gonna hit free agency, probably not gonna get to extended. But the Yankees are a unique franchise in that sense. They are they have a unique financial advantage over most teams. I mean, they spent over $500 million last offseason. The Garrett Cole contract is the largest contract ever given out to a pitcher. The Aaron Judge contract is the largest free agent contract ever given out to a position player, or I think just in general. I don't know if there's a free agent contract. I know that there's an extension in Mike Trout, but again, talking just free agency here. I think the Yankees are in a position where they just make all the sense in the world. They check the financial box. They need Juan Soto. The team obviously is looking at Juan Soto, and the prospect capital is there. The Yankees have tons of pitching. So, Aiden, the Yankees and Juan Soto, if you were to give a percent chance of it happening, what would it be? And if you were to come up with a mock trade for Soto, what would it be?
I mean, percentage chance of, Juan Soto getting traded to the Yankees. I'm not gonna I'm being cautiously optimistic here. I'm trying to keep my hopes tempered because I just don't want to end up getting hurt in the end, because being a New York sports fan, not just a Yankees fan, a New York sports fan in general, I know when something good is supposed to happen, usually doesn't, or something happens. But I don't know, Ryan. This deal just feels like it almost has to happen. I wouldn't call it inevitable, but it kind of is inevitable. It kind of feels like it has to happen, and that's when the rest of the league's market is going to start to develop. So, I mean, I feel like I guess I would say like a 75% chance right now. I want to say like it's closer to the 80-85 range, but just accounting for, things happen in an instant sometimes in this league, especially in the offseason. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's a pretty good chance of happening. Like you said, I mean, of course, he's a fit for every team, but he's especially a fit for the Yankees because the Yankees can give him that contract he wants next year, or perhaps even before he hits free agency, although that is unlikely. But he's also a fit because, the Yankees were one of the worst teams in left field last year. They got some of the worst production out of their left fielders. I mean, we had Oswaldo Cabrera out there. We had Hicks out there. We had Pereira out there towards the end. We had everybody out there, and it just never worked out. They were one of the bottom teams in left field when it comes to WRC plus and OPS. Who was at the top of that list? Juan Soto and the San Diego Padres. So you immediately go from getting some of the worst production from left field to getting the best production out of left field. That's why it's a perfect fit for the Yankees. And a lot of people are saying it doesn't make them World Series contenders. Yeah, it probably doesn't, but it sure as hell helps. Okay, so but percentage chance, I'd say 75 to 80% chance right now. And I think if it happens, it's going to happen in the coming days. It just seems like that's the way things are developing. And that's what the Padres need to get this done to move on with their offseason and start signing the arms that they need for their starting pitching, because right now they don't have the money to do it and they need to free up payroll. So if we're looking at what the Padres are going to get back, because they do need this starting pitching, and, since they're strapped for cash, they need to get this from the trade market. Yankees have exactly what they need. We've gone over this. So I think, optimistically, I think this, the headline pitcher of the deal is probably Clark Schmidt, I think. I could definitely see Michael King instead, because that's kind of the step up. That's what would get the Padres to be like, okay, yeah, let's do this. But I think it takes a Clark Schmidt at the top. We've heard reports that the Yankees are reluctant to part ways with Drew Thorpe, but that's not really a surprise to me because, he's one of the best pitching prospects in the game. Of course, you're reluctant to get rid of him for a rental, but if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But, right now it's just negotiations. They're trying to get that price down. So I think what we're looking at is Clark Schmidt, Drew Thorpe going away, and I really don't think it takes that much else. It takes one or two other position players. So I think what the Yankees send back is a catcher like Higashioka, and then trying to think of an outfielder that they could send back. Probably not Pereira. Maybe some kind of outfield prospect. I don't want to say Spencer Jones, but that's probably what it's end up going to be. So Clark Schmidt, Drew Thorpe, Higashioka, an outfield prospect. That's my mock trade. Ryan, what's your mock trade? I feel like you have a better sense of what the Padres are going to be looking for in this package.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a good idea as to what it looks like in the upcoming days. Personally, I think that it's impossible for me to see the Yankees trading for Juan Soto without parting ways with Chase Hampton. And I think that that's... If you're going to do a Juan Soto trade, and if you tell me right now, look, the Yankees are going to trade for Juan Soto, I would bet any amount of money, not any amount of money. I mean, I'm a college student, right? Like, the money is, it's a valuable asset here. But I would bet a decent amount of money that he's going to go out and the Yankees are going to go out and trade Chase Hampton for Juan Soto. I think Clark Schmidt makes a lot of sense. That's a name that you just brought up. It just makes a ton of sense, right? 4 years of control. Fills out the back end of the Padres rotation. Another name that I could see in a potential deal, could we see, and I've seen this on Twitter a little bit, could we see the Yankees maybe go out and make a 3-team trade in terms of Juan Soto? I'm not saying I want to trade Gleyber Torres. I want to clarify that. I know the idea of it. I've definitely talked about more in recent days. It's not sourced. It's not out of a desire to get rid of Gleyber Torres. It's more so just brainstorming. We're getting close to I think what would be the finish line or the resolution of the Juan Soto sweepstakes. So, looking at it from that perspective, maybe the Yankees deal Torres to a pitching-heavy team like the Marlins or to the Mariners, and maybe the Mariners, flip a pitcher to the Padres, and so the Yankees kind of save a little bit of their pitching depth. Another idea here would be to maybe trade a guy like Ian Hamilton, who's a controllable reliever. The Padres have mentioned looking for relievers as well. I don't know if you saw that report. I think it was from Dennis Lin, who reported that they're looking for starting pitching, relievers, also looking for some catching help. Could, Kyle Higashioka be like a throw in there? Who knows? But overall, if you look at what the Padres are looking for, it's outfielders, catchers, starting pitchers, relief pitchers. It's everything that the Yankees have, right? Like, it's something that they're abundant in. It's something that they have a plethora of. Personally, I do think that, despite the fact that, Spencer Jones is at least it's on MLB.com. He's their top prospect. I don't think he is like their top I think it is Jason Dominguez. I think that Jason Dominguez you kind of have to give it to him, right? I would part ways with Jones in a Soto deal. If it came down to it, I would. Would I do like Jones, Hampton, Schmidt, King? Like, I don't even think it's going to cost that much. I think people have to kind of temper their expectations a little bit as to what a Juan Soto trade is going to look like. It'll be probably, let's say, 2 top 100 prospects and then like a throw-in. Or like, I don't think it's going to be Michael King and Chase Hampton and Spencer Jones and even Will Warren. Like, I don't think it's going to take those 4 players to get a deal done. Now, would you do a deal with those 4 players? If you're the Yankees, probably, right? Like, you would because it's Juan Soto. But you kind of mentioned this with that report that they're reluctant to trade Drew Thorpe. That's probably a negotiation tactic, right? Like, the way that the Padres are going, like, hey, we want Volpe, we want Dominguez, we want, like, laying out what they want. The Yankees are going to be like, and we're willing to give you, like, maybe like, well, we're willing to give you like Will Warren. We're willing to give you like, Everson Pereira. And you got to talk your way kind of up back there, right? To these 2 parties are going to meet sides at some point. These 2 parties, I imagine, will at least get close to like getting names that, that they can see. I'm not saying that means that they're going to make a deal. I'm not saying I'm going to guarantee that. I don't have sources to guarantee that. But, I do think that at this point, the Yankees are the favorite. And I think betting odds have kind of reflect that as of recent as well. Now, the big question here is extending Juan Soto. I kind of hinted at it a little bit where the Yankees have, I think, a unique advantage where they can say, hey, Juan Soto, here's $500 million, right? And I know that people are going to say, well, he rejected a $440 million extension, so, he's not interested at all in being extended. I look at that $440 million extension and say, there is some context that's lost. Number one, the 2022 arbitration hit and the 2023 arbitration hit would have been wiped out for about $29 million a year salary. And this upcoming season, Juan Soto is making $33 million. So if by year 2 of a contract, you're making less money than you were projected to make, it's already like, it's not a great deal to make if you're Juan Soto. And I think what happened was that the Nationals made an offer that they knew Juan Soto would reject, but that they could put out there to the media and say, we tried, right? Like, we offered him $400 million and he didn't stay. Like, he just doesn't want to be here. I think Juan Soto will love to retire a National, despite what most people think. He likes being on the East Coast. He's been there since he's 16, right? Like when he got traded, he was 23. He was there for 7 years. Obviously, winning's a priority for him, but he's won a World Series, and I imagine he liked Washington, right? I don't think he was upset at Washington. I think the issue is just the money and the Nationals realizing we're not going to be able to extend this guy. Let's get a bunch back for him. In the Yankees' case, they are on the East Coast, right? It is an area where, you can travel back and forth from the Dominican Republic. He likes having his family with him. I think that's an advantage. I saw a report that, his family was with him while he was in Washington, and that was a disadvantage that was created when he went to San Diego. He has an East Coast preference. That is legit. That is not like the Garrett Cole West Coast preference. It's the Sabathia West Coast preference. Even most recently, and we'll talk about him in a bit, the Yoshinobu Yamamoto West Coast preference. So I think the Yankees could actually say, here's $500 million over the next 12 seasons. Maybe there's some opt-outs in there, who knows, but we want you around for a very long time. I think the Yankees are at least going to make a valiant effort to extend Juan Soto. If not, they'll have to go see him in free agency, and it's not the first time they've done that. Aaron Judge, right? Like, they had that famous, public extension offer, and they're like, hey, Judge was actually looking for this, and that created some buzz about whether the Yankees were going to be able to retain Judge or not. It all worked out in the end. That's how negotiations work. They just offered a lot of money, right? Like, that's just how this works. But, the question I do have is, how does Yoshinobu Yamamoto fit into this? When you reserve the number 18 for a guy, you clearly want him, right? Like, they didn't give that number out this past season. They didn't just do that because they were feeling generous or because they didn't think any player wanted the number 18. They did it because they really like Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and I think the pursuit and the legit interest in him is there. But if you're giving Juan Soto $33 million in arbitration, and then you give Yoshinobu Yamamoto the contract he could get, which Jeff Passan is reporting, could be $250 million. Michael Marino, who's a reporter on Twitter, mentioned it could get closer to $300 million than $200 million. Aiden, do you think that the Yankees could get Juan Soto and still pay Yamamoto, and would that jeopardize the future of Soto? I don't know. But what are your thoughts on that situation? What are your thoughts on the Yankees' pursuit and some of the rumors around the team with Yamamoto?
I think we're in a position with the Yankees now. The Yankees are in a position where they know that they have to step it up this offseason because of what happened this past season. Obviously, 82-80, as Steinbrenner and Cashman have said publicly, is a disaster. That is a disaster for the New York Yankees. Mediocrity is not acceptable to the organization and its fans. So, is this a year where they go and they dish out $25 million a year or $28 million a year to one guy, and then they're paying Juan Soto $33 million a year? I think this is a year where they sit down at the table and they're like, yeah, we got to do this. We got to completely go for it, because the Yankees have some aging players on some pretty heavy contracts. You got Stanton, 32 or 30 something a year. I believe they're only paying him 22 a year. You got Rodon on that big contract. You got Rizzo, LeMahieu. You're in a window right now and you're trying to go for it. Judge and Cole, they kind of extend this window a little bit because they're locked up for however many more years, but you want to go for it while those two guys are in their prime. Aaron Judge just won MVP in 2022. Garrett Cole just won the Cy Young. You have two of some of the best players in baseball. They are both probably top 10 players in baseball right now. You got to go for it. So go pick up a guy with top 5 starting pitching potential and a guy with top 3 hitter potential. That's what the Yankees look like they want to do this offseason. Just with all the rumors we're getting around, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think the Yankees want to get both of these guys and go for it for next year. Now, financially, where does that leave them? I don't know if it's really going to take them over the luxury tax. We do know that House Steinbrenner does like to stay under that threshold, but we have seen him go over it in the past because he didn't think the team was good enough. I believe in the 2013 offseason, or the offseason that they signed Masahiro Tanaka, I believe it was, Steinbrenner took a look at the payroll. He saw that they were just under the luxury tax, but he decided that they were not good enough. And then I think he went out and signed Tanaka, and that was the move that put them over the edge. I'm hoping I'm remembering that correctly. I read an article on it not too long ago, but that's what I think is happening this year. Hal knows they're not good enough, so we got to put ourselves over the edge. And so that leaves the question of, okay, so with them paying Yamamoto and Soto this year, are they going to want to do it again next year? Are they going to want to continue to pay out that amount of money and be over the tax threshold? Well, the Yankees have a lot of contracts coming off the books. Well, not a lot of contracts, but there's going to be some money freed up. Anthony Rizzo is coming off the books next year. That's $20 million off of the luxury tax salary. Gleyber Torres is going to be becoming a free agent. Obviously, you want to keep him around, but he's going to be, his luxury tax salary, I believe, is around $15 million or in that 14.5 range. So there is money coming off of the books. I think Tommy Kahnle might be coming off the books. LeMahieu the next year too. So the Yankees might be in a position where they can still retain Soto and still stay under that tax threshold. And I think if they can't stay under that threshold, I think they're still going to go for it. So Ryan, what do you think? Do you think that they'll go over the threshold this year to get Yamamoto and Soto, and will they do it next year too?
I think they'll stay under the Cohen threshold. I think that's the number where they're scared of. Not scared of, but just kind of like, why would they want to go there, right? If they do, I'd be pleasantly surprised. But that's kind of why I feel like, not that Yamamoto isn't going to happen, but like, why I'm a little bit like, I wonder what they do after. You know what I mean? If they got them, they would have a lot of like cleaning house to do after that. I would assume Gleyber Torres is gone, right? Like I would go as far as I would assume he isn't on the team anymore. But given the rumors with Yamamoto, given the rumors with Soto, right? Like landing Cody Bellinger as your top acquisition, just like my performances in the bedroom, it just wouldn't satisfy anybody, right? Like you need to go out and go big. Nothing is going to be good enough for anybody if the team doesn't land Soto and Yamamoto. So, you know, at the end of the day, you've got to go big. Got to go big. Got to go out and get the top guys. Got to get the best players in this market. That's how I feel about this. You go 82-80. You have a season like you did last year. You've missed on how many guys, like at this point, right? Like you missed on, I mean, I'm not saying you missed on Olsen because I understand two parties have to agree to a trade. I'm not going to sit here and say I know the Yankees didn't try enough for that, but they did not land him, right? Freddie Freeman, they did not land him. Carlos Correa, I know this past season wasn't very good, but still, like, given what he was in 2022, and the fact you could have given him a 3-year deal and he would have opted out, and maybe you don't re-sign him, and, you still got that 1-year production, and maybe you win the World Series, who knows, and, who cares if he leaves, right? You missed out on that. Corey Seager just won a World Series. You missed out on that. They were actually even interested in Marcus Semien, and they missed out, right? Like, Marcus Semien would be sick because Volpe would have taken over at shortstop, and Semien would have slid over to second base. And before people say, well, Marcus Semien was not a good shortstop, what was IKF, right? Like, IKF was, come on, right? Like, let's be real here, right? So, you've missed out on those guys. Obviously, we can go back to Machado and Harper. Those are the two big ones everybody talks about. Machado was unexcusable. Like, Harper, sure, you signed Stan, you were planning on signing Judge at some point. Fine, whatever. You had a down year, sure, right? Like, I'm not gonna say it's good, but I'm trying hard to understand it, right? The Manny Machado one was just downright stupid. It was a 10-year, $300 million contract with an opt-out for the guy, and the guy would have taken the opt-out, and he was going to take the opt-out if the Padres didn't extend him. Coming off of a season where he put up, a 7-win season. He had a 141 WRC. Plus, I know in his career he's been very up and down, right? But with the Padres, he's still been, let me just pull this up here on Fangraphs. I'm sorry for the slight interruptions here. He still pulled up 20.1 WAR and a 127 WRC plus, and that's at a ballpark that's not very hitter friendly. What would he have done at Yankee Stadium, right? The Yankees have not found a permanent long-term solution at third base. Urshela was a nice piece to the puzzle for 2.5 years, right? 2021, he just kind of fell off towards the end, right? Were you a Manny Machado away maybe in 2022, right? Like, imagine if you had Manny Machado and his 153 WRC plus coupled with what Aaron Judge gave you, and then you think about the Correa contract too. Like, you start compiling these moves they haven't made, and you're like, this team has left a lot on the table. This team has left a lot of winning on the table, and that's the thing that bothers me. The thing is that they have left winning on the table, and they've got to change that. Secondly here, you get a Juan Soto, you get a Yoshinobu Yamamoto, that energizes the fan base. Again, you just cannot have your top guy be, it's Cody Bellinger and some smaller pieces, and that's satisfactory. It's not. Like, the team's not going to, nobody's going to accept that. I'm not going to accept that. That'll be an F off season. I'll go as far as say, given the place we're at with the Juan Soto trade rumors, if the Yankees don't land Juan Soto, it is like it's hard for it to be anything better than like a D minus, right? Like it's going to be really hard for it to be better than that. Unless you sign Ohtani, which you're not signing Ohtani, right? Like we're past that point, right? So we're past the point of like there's an alternative option. There just isn't. Looking at the pitching side of things, like I can live without Yamamoto. I can live with them finding somebody else. I'm not saying that there's a guy that comes close to Yamamoto's talent level, but there are guys who can at least fill out back-end spots of the rotation, and you do have Garrett Cole. It's a little bit different. You can always address the pitching market in the deadline. Plenty of pitchers are going to become available by then. But like at this point, like you got to go big. You've got to go big. And you know, another thing I wanted to touch up on regarding these two players, and I wanted to get your opinion on this, Aiden. I feel like the Yankees, the big thing that people don't talk about with the Yankees is that they can go out and get these guys and it makes them younger. Hal Steinbrenner specifically mentioned this team being younger. I want two 25-year-olds on my team, right? And I can get two 25-year-olds on my team. I feel like this fits the Yankees' plans perfectly for getting younger, no?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole problem with the Yankees has been their age, how slow and unathletic they are. Now, I understand Soto isn't the best fielder. He isn't the best runner, but he also, I don't think, has ever had a season with an OPS below 850. The guy is an incredible hitter. You're getting a 25-year-old ace in Yamamoto. I mean, it's almost like this is a no-brainer. Now, the Yankees have been trying to get younger for years, and they've been trying to find those prospects that pan out and are consistent top 25 players long-term. We're staring that right in the face right now. It makes absolute sense for them to do this. You got guys in Volpe and Dominguez who are both under 23, probably under 22 years old, I think, at this point. I think they are 22, actually. You got two elite 25-year-olds in Yamamoto and Soto. You got a potentially elite center fielder in Dominguez who's 22 years old. You have a shortstop who's probably going to turn out to be pretty solid. And then you have a Cy Young winner, a reigning Cy Young winner, and you have a guy who just broke a home run record a couple years ago. You still have Stanton, who can still maybe turn it around. Who knows? Rizzo, you could look at him to turn it around. So the Yankees have these aging contracts with, they have players that are aging. They're on big contracts. But now you're getting younger with still big contracts, but you're getting younger, and that's what you need. You're trying to set up a core long term. Can you imagine for the next 7 or 8 years, 9 years, we have a core of Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Garrett Cole, Jason Dominguez, Yoshinobu Yamamoto? That's a core of 5 players who are probably going to be pretty elite talent over the course of their career. That's a core you want around your team. That's the core that Ryan, our parents, told us about in the late 90s. That is the type of core that you have. It's debatably could be a better overall core. So I just like, I keep thinking about it. I keep thinking about how these guys are both 25 years old, and it's just a no-brainer to go out and get both of them. Because if you want to be the Yankees again, signing these two players, that makes you the Yankees again. So,
yeah, I would agree. I think part of it is also like, the opinion of how you feel the direction of this franchise is going, right? You get Juan Soto, it's like, this is different, right? Like, I know people are going to, we're starting to see this a little bit. As players, as the dominoes continue to fall, as things look a little bit more like it's going to be the Yankees, people are already coming up with reasons to be negative about it, right? Let's make this very clear. The Yankees get Juan Soto. It is a slam dunk move. It is a move that it changes the energy of the fan base. I don't care what people think. I don't care how long it drags out. It changes everything because you take Juan Soto, you take an elite left-handed hitter, a 25-year-old, you add him to the roster. Now, would you argue, look, let's before we start, parading them, let's see if they extend him. They get Juan Soto and they hand them an extension at some point in the offseason, they're the Yankees again, right? It feels like they're the Yankees again. If they get Soto and they get Yamamoto, I mean, how do you come up with anything against that? And again, man, like I personally just feel like part of it is the energy. You want that energy to change. I think the development of the young guys is obviously going to be super important. We talked about this a little bit in terms of beforehand. We were talking about this off camera a little bit, where it was like, look at the Yankees payroll, right? Like, they have the second most committed money in the year 2026 out of any team. Actually, funnily enough, the Braves are first, which makes sense because every single one of their guys takes, shady extensions from third. I won't get into like how that happens, but like I have my theories. It involves an island, but anyways, the Yankees only have 18 players that are that are supposed to be here at that point in time. And that's one of the lowest totals in the league. So you have a lot of money, not a lot of players that are guaranteed roster spots in that time span. The Yankees can't afford to miss another contract. I think this is their last opportunity to spend big and miss. Right? Like, if they miss, this is it. Right? Like, if they spend big and it doesn't work out, we're going to have questions about what the direction of the team is going to look like going forward. I will concede that. But they get Juan Soto, man. It changes a lot. Maybe you put yourself in a position where, you rely a little more on your young talent and you can afford to do so. They definitely have some guys coming up in the system. There are a lot of guys who are 2024, 2025 ETAs who could definitely help the team. You think Dominguez coming back. You think of the progression maybe you get from Wells or a guy like Peraza. Maybe, as you mentioned, you get a second-year leap from Anthony Volpe. You have guys like Trey Sweeney, Caleb Durbin. I'm trying to think of other 2020. Spencer Jones could be a 2025 guy. Drew Thorpe or Chase Hampton, depending on who's here. We don't know who's going to be here by then. Trying to think of other recently drafted prospects. You have Will Warren, Clayton Beater. I'm forgetting about pitchers now. You have guys. Like, you definitely have guys. You certainly have people that can come up and fill out spots. And let's be real here. It's a 26-man roster. You have 18 players. You just need to kind of find the rest of it. And most of those are relievers, too. And the Yankees literally, like, they make relievers out of nowhere. So, end of the day, I really do feel like that Soto, getting a guy like Juan Soto, these winter meetings are going to be crucial. And if you miss out on Juan Soto at this point, it's gonna be bad. Like, this is not gonna be. We're gonna do some very unfun podcasts if Juan Soto's not a Yankee. So, Aiden, if there's anything you'd like to add on before we wrap up, take it away, man.
I mean, yeah, that's. I mean, we've been saying it. This move has to happen. If it doesn't happen, it's not just gonna be us that are gonna be irrationally mad. I mean, actually, it would be pretty rationally mad because at this point, they have to get this done. There's way too much smoke for this to not get done. So yeah, a lot of people will be mad if it doesn't happen. And honestly, if we think about past winter meetings, the Yankees are always so active during the winter meetings. Most of their biggest offseason moves in recent years have come during the winter meetings. If you think about last year, Yankees re-signed Judge during the winter meetings, and I believe they were in talks with Rodon at that point. The year before, there wasn't a winter meetings because of the bargaining agreement. And then before that, Yankees signed Garrett Cole in the winter meetings. Before that, they pretty much traded for Giancarlo Stanton during the winter meetings and then introduced him during the winter meetings. The Yankees are active during the winter meetings. They make their biggest moves during the winter meetings. So, and we've been hearing, this Soto deal might go down during the winter meetings. The Padres gotta free up money so that they can move on with their offseason. Guys, next Friday we could be talking about Juan Soto being in pinstripes. So be on the lookout over the next couple of days. I've told Ryan I'm trying to get a lot of coursework out of the way so that I can be available for when this happens. Because when this happens, I'm running directly to my laptop and we're going to be talking about it. So be on the lookout for the next week for this move to happen because, guys, it just feels like it's going to happen. So, yeah, Ryan, that's all I got. If you want to say your piece for the final minutes of the episode, go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I want to add on is that, you did mention, I was going to talk a little bit about, the Yankees have historically made some big moves during the winter meeting, so I'm glad you mentioned it. And then the last thing I just want to throw on is, guys, if you guys are not aware, Aiden does a lot of stuff on our TikToks, does a lot of stuff on our Twitter, on our graphics and, short videos. And so you guys should make sure you guys check that out too. So, I don't want to just throw in the YouTube plugin and the Empire Sports Media plugin. Guys, check that stuff out. Aiden and Sam are constantly cooking on there. I can't edit for my life, so greatly appreciate their services and the fact that they can. But with that being said, we want your guys' thoughts on everything in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, it helps us in the algorithm. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. That's the only number I can think about outside of Juan Soto. Juan Soto's a number, but I am thinking about Juan Soto a lot. And with that being said, you guys can check us out on our personal Twitter accounts. Those are going to be above our heads. We have plenty of social platforms: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. And we also have community posts on YouTube as well. So if that stuff interests you, go check that out. We do daily podcasts, usually in the early afternoon to early morning. So we have those daily as well that catches you guys up on everything you guys need. And of course, Empire Sports Media is where you can get all your favorite New York sports coverage. So check that out as well. I'm Ryan, that's Aiden, and we're saying goodbye. Have a good rest of your day. Peace out.